Welcome back to more projects. Today we're going to be doing some coilover installation on the Integra. So this is the newest line of the Maxpeedingrods racing series of their coilovers. The ones that you see on here, I already have a previous video that you can watch and it shows how to install them, but I'm going to do an install on these. It'll be the same process, but we get to go in more depth about how these ride compared to the originals. And I'm very excited to try these things out. I love the new look of them. These definitely look well built compared to the other ones, so when I pull the other ones off, I'll show you a side-by-side comparison. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So these are the new line that they have, and most people, the first thing you want to do to your tuner or your little project car is lower it, because it's going to get rid of that nasty wheel gap. It will bring down the center of gravity. It'll handle better. It looks better. You just got to be careful for certain things to run over whenever you lower them. But overall, it's aesthetically pleasing and a lot more fun to ride in. So these right here have a heavier spring rate. So these are probably going to ride pretty stiff, but they will handle excellent on curvy roads. With the dampening that these things have, where you can adjust it with this knob, hopefully we can set it up for daily driving, and then whenever we take it to the mountains or say to a track, you should be able to tighten these things up on the fly and have them ready to rock. Before I get started, the tools that you're going to need to do this job: you're going to need a hammer, a ratchet, some wrenches, sockets, an impact, and a jack and some jack stands. So the main sockets that you're going to need is a 14, a 17, a 19, and then a 17 millimeter wrench. And then you'll need little stuff like a little flathead screwdriver to pop off some panels. The hammer helps get some of the bolts out that are stuck or tight from the suspension. Maybe a pry bar. And then just to speed things up, I've got the impact wrench and the electric ratchet. First thing, let's go ahead and jack up the car and put it on jack stands. Okay, I'm gonna put one on the other side. So, first thing you want to do once you get it put up on jack stands is try to shake it off, because you would rather this thing fall off right now than on you. Always a good habit. And when you take off your wheel, stick it under the car, so if it falls, it'll at least land on that also. So that's just another safety precaution. Now, these Maxpeedingrods that you see on here, the red ones, these are the adjustable dampening ones. I've had these on my car for over a year, and these things, I mean, look at them. I don't care what nobody says, for the price of these, you really cannot beat it. I mean, they are great for daily driving. So I cannot wait to see how the new upgraded models, how they handle compared to these. All right, so to take these off, the first thing we want to do, see this little pinch bolt right here that holds this onto here. We're going to take that. I'm just going to remove it completely. All right, so this is a 14 millimeter for the pinch bolt. Now down here, you have, on the bottom of the fork, you have a 17 millimeter bolt and a nut. The trick is to kind of get it started, and then to get it all the way out, you can stick your 17 millimeter wrench right here and hold pressure up against it towards the socket. And you should be able to take a hammer and knock this down. And I have a brake line hooked up right here. That's a 10 millimeter. I'm gonna go ahead and take that out real quick. Okay, so now I got that bolt out, and then we just want to tap. So now, all that's holding it left is up top, right here. So I'm gonna have to take off this upper strut bar on this Integra. So typically these are going to be a 14 millimeter, but these aftermarket Maxpeedingrods use a 15 millimeter. going to come out towards the back of the vehicle, out this way, and they come. So here's a quick comparison of the old versus the new. So I'll take off the sleeve off of this one. You can reuse that if you already have some. If not, they send some new ones with it. The Integras, this will be the same process for the Civics and the Integras, but the Integras, they have a bigger fork, so that's why they use this spacer. But if you use a Civic, you shouldn't have to use this. So now, overall, you can see the spring. The springs are beefier on the new version, and they have a tighter coil, but they're the same overall length. The top hats are about the same, except for the fronts up here. Notice that these just have a rubber bushing on the red one, and the silver one, they have a pillow ball mount, they call it, upper style. So that actually has a better feel to them as far as how they handle. You can see that the new lock rings look nicer. This one has a plastic bushing underneath, and like I said, they use new spanner wrenches. So, and the dust boots, you can see this little bitty dust boot on the red one, it just basically just a little half piece. On the new ones, it's got a full dust boot to the top all the way down. And I think this one actually has upgraded oil in it for the dampening to make it actually have a thicker viscosity, I guess. So it's supposed to work a lot better. And then up top, they have the same kind of control, but this one's got like a newer style knob on it. And the nut on the top is beefier too. So I really like the new design. And it's got the new logo down here. Instead of the other one being just like a sticker, this one's actually painted on. So very cool. Installing is the same as how it came off. We'll come back in through the back side. Go ahead and get that started. All right, we'll come back down here, and I'm gonna go ahead and slide this sleeve, and see how it's got this little lip right here. Go ahead and put that up to the top. Slide that on. We've got the mounting bracket for the brake line cables. So you want to try to go ahead and get this adjusted to about where you want it. So this at the highest setting, and the way I know that, it's got a little cut. It's a little bit hard to tell, but you can see this little groove cut right there. See where it's missing a thread? That's going to be at the highest setting that you can go. So I'm going to cover that up, and we're going to tighten that down. And then now you can slip these on and then put your bolt back in, and then we can go ahead and reinstall this fork. So put that back up there, and you can just start the bolt. Okay, and then same with the bottom of the fork, just go ahead and stick your bolt in and start it. Put this nut on right here to start it back. Okay, once you have all of your bolts started and nuts, now we can put preload on the suspension. Now this is different kind of preload than what we're going to put weight on the suspension, as if this thing was sitting on the ground before we tighten up everything, because you don't want to tighten it up with it up in the air, and then whenever it goes to sit, it's going to twist all of your bushings. You want this thing to be fully seated. Also, you'll be putting pressure, added stress on your bolts if you don't have it already pushed all the way up. So let's put a jack under here and put pressure on here. So I'm just going to put the jack and rest it on the ball joint right here. And then now I'm going to go ahead and lift the vehicle. We just want to lift the vehicle until we see it come off the jack stand. And then that will have preload. Okay, it just came off of the jack stand. So now we can tighten up all of our bolts. All right, once you got everything tightened up down below and up top, don't forget to tighten up this middle nut, because sometimes from the factory, these are already still left loose. Not all the time, but a lot of times. So just always double check all of your hardware is tight. Then you can put your wheel back on and torque the wheel or the lug nuts down to 80 foot-pounds. Work on the same on the driver's side, and then we'll go ahead. I'll show in the video how to do the passengers. I mean, I'll show you how to do the rear. I'm not going to show the driver's side being done. All right, so all I've got installed so far is just the fronts, and man, these things ride so much better. I mean, it's stiff, but it's not like so stiff that I can't deal with it. And on the softest setting, it feels like factory ride. I'm mind blown right now. All right, so with these new coilovers, this is me going over a speed bump at pretty much a normal speed, and I had a little bit of scrubbage, but that was from my just inner fender wells. Then as far as stopping goes, like I swear this thing stops better. Very noticeable, and that was just barely noticeable for that bridge. So my driveway's got a big bump right here, and it's got a normal little scrub, but definitely not as bad as it was. I'm so happy. Yesterday I installed just the fronts on this, and this is at the highest setting. These are 15s, and they got like 195, 45 profiles on them. So at the highest setting, this is where it sits right now, which is still lower than stock by about 1 inch. They actually ride surprisingly well. I was very, very pleased. You can see a video clip right here. So now we can go ahead and start installing the rear. Just like the front, we need to jack it up, put it on jack stands, and take the wheels off. Once you have the wheels removed and it on jack stands, you have, so mine is stripped the bolt out that was on the back side. But anyway, it's typically supposed to be a 14 millimeter all the way through, and you can just pull it out one way. Like this side right here. So you just have a 14 millimeter you just have to take out, and then up top, you have, in the trunk area, you have these 2 plastic covers. Just take you a flathead screwdriver, pop them up, pull them off. Okay. And now you have access to the tops. And like I said before, if you have factory struts on here, there will be 14 millimeter nuts. These Maxpeedingrods use 15 millimeter nuts. So once you get your bolt removed, if you can't get it all the way up to get it to come over, best thing to do what you can do is you can remove these two 14 millimeters and swing your arm out. So once you take those two out, this will be able to swing out some, and which you can push down on your strut and pull it out this way. So while we're right here, we'll go ahead and install the new one. So I've already got this one at the highest setting where you can back it out. It's got that one groove cut in it where there's a missing thread. I'm going to thread it to right where it hides that and bring that down. Take the fork, go ahead and drop it onto the control arm first, and then push down and turn this. So the reason you don't want to have this locked down yet is because you want to still be able to have the mobility to turn to be able to line up your bolts up top. Get those lined up top. All right, so you'll have to wiggle this around, get your hole lined up, and then once you got a bolt in, you can line this up at the top. So take your jack, support it under that lower control arm, and make sure you got it lined up. And when you jack it up, you see how that comes up through there. And go ahead. So since I have the jack supporting under here, it brought this closer to where this needs to be to line up. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall those two bolts. Okay, get those tight. And now, once I got it started, I normally just take it, tap it on through. And if it stops and it doesn't go all the way through, you need to find out why. And it looks like that bolt needs to be facing more towards the bottom. All right, so I'm gonna hold it down on my pry bar, and if I tap on this, all right, so let's go ahead and get that started. I'm just jacking right there underneath the lower control arm, directly under where the strut is. I'm going to raise it just until I see it come off the jack stand. And now we can tighten up all of our bolts. So down here and up here. All right, so now after you have these tightened, you always want to make sure that this is tight. To get on here, the rears, I noticed the rears are a 19 millimeter right here. The fronts were a 21 millimeter. The 21 millimeter, the 21, it would actually fit over the top of this and be able to tighten up. But the 19 would not, so you have to take this top off. And it's just got a little bitty set screw right here, and it comes in your kit. In your kit with your spanner wrenches and everything, it comes with all the tools. So all you gotta do is just simply just break that loose. All right, so you have to back that little set screw out about that far, and then that'll slide right off. Okay, so that's an 8 millimeter flat across there. So if you wanted to tighten this up more, hold your flat with your 8, and then tighten that up. And then that one side will be installed, and then you can take your pressure back off. And right now, remember, we're at the highest setting. So if we wanted to adjust this down, we need to break loose this bottom and screw this into here. Same with the fronts. You leave these alone unless you're setting your preload. And see how this one, it's already loose, but this is still tight. So that top looks like it should be fine. That should be already set with the preload. But we just need to tighten up this bottom one. Put your bottom spanner wrench on and then get your top one. And put your top one up here to the left. And then tighten these two against each other to lock it. If you want to go lower, back that off. And then you'll turn this top one and lower it down. If you want to raise it, go back the other way. Spin this down and then lock this one into place. And that'll keep your settings. And it doesn't have to be like super tight, but you want to make sure that it's snug. So once you get it where you want it, snug it up, good to go. Do the same on the other side. All right, so I got the rears installed, and so far I'm loving the way that it's riding. It's pretty stiff, and I got it on the hardest setting all the way around. And I'm going to slow down just a little bit for this vehicle so I can hit this corner a little bit faster. So let's wait for this car. Oh yeah, it hangs a corner very nicely. So I'm super excited about these. Can't wait to go cruising up through the mountains. I mean, I don't feel any body roll in this thing whatsoever.